The title of loving husband, father, grandfather, brother, and a dear friend. I offer this service knowing that any one of you can do a far better job than I will. You knew him. Your lives touched his. You knew him in special ways. But for the attempt to honor such a good life, I give my thanks to the family for this privilege. I've always loved the words of the Lebanese poet Khalil Gibran, who wrote a book back in my college days was must reading called The Prophet. And in this classic work, he wrote these words regarding death. And what is it to cease breathing, but to free its breath from its restless tide, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? It is only when you drink from the river of silence that you begin to sing. It is when the earth has claimed your body that you truly begin to dance. My friends, if we're going to be honest here, and if we can't be honest in this place, where else could we ever be? When we gather at a time remembering a life, celebrating a life, we also find ourselves thinking of our own mortality. We do. And I just want to say that bringing our hearts together, sharing this sorrow, but also the hopes and the joys that John brought into this world and into your lives. That's why we're here, not only to remember this precious treasure in a fragile vessel. We are all precious treasures in fragile vessels, but to remember what made him unique, what made him the man you knew and loved. Now, this is where the priest, the rabbi, the minister starts to read scriptures, words of comfort that for 2,000 years have been spoken at such a moment. But there's one story from the New Testament I wish to offer. But I'm not going to read it. It's more like a story. And it's one that many of you might know. There comes that time when Jesus and the disciples have to cross a large lake. They have to do that because there's work on this distant shore. So the disciples make their way down to the seashore early in the morning. It's a beautiful day and there's barely a breeze rippling the surface of that water. They get halfway across. You know what happens? A great storm arises. And the disciples, as they watch the wind beating fiercely upon the water, forming waves that are threatening to capsize that fragile vessel, the disciples cry out, "We are doomed. We will perish. The storm is too great." So what do? They awaken Jesus. He's sleeping this whole time. Jesus calms the wind and they reach safely that distant shore. My friends, as we make our ways through life, there are storms of all kinds that come upon us. Storms of illness, storms of heartache, storms of disappointment, and the greatest storm of all, the loss of someone that we have loved. And when these storms come upon us, we too can cry out, "I cannot survive this. I cannot survive this pain, this loss, this sorrow. It's too great." We would do well to remember what those disciples learned so long ago. No matter how fierce might be the storm on the outside, we can always find an oasis of calm and comfort on the inside because God is always within us, always beside us. And the ending of that story speaks well, for when they reached that distant shore, it was not the end of their journey. It was not the destination. It was what? The beginning of the next adventure, the next journey. And so it is with us. When our souls reach that distant shore, call it heaven, whatever you wish. It's the next journey of life. This life here on earth is not the sum total of our spirit's travel. No, my friends, we are here to remember this man and the way that he traveled and touched lives in so many ways. I wish I could remove from our vocabulary of sorrow this phrase: he passed away. We use it, and there's kind of a softness to it, a gentleness. He passed away. But if ever there was a phrase less true, it is this one. Oh, illness passes away, discomfort passes away, but his spirit passed on. And the difference between passing away and passing on makes all the difference in the world. For death is not the destination, but the entrance to the next life, one without pain, without confusion, without darkness or tears. I once was with a young boy whose mother was very, very ill in a hospital. And he asked me, Mark, what is heaven like? What will my mom see in heaven? I asked him, you tell me what you think heaven is like. It's like a 10-year-old boy. He said, I think God takes the very best moment you had on earth and allows you to live in that moment forever. I don't know much better than that. I don't think any theologian could do better than that. No. So you have to be thinking, what was John's best moments? You know it would be family and friends and some other things we will talk about in just a minute. And so it is declared that death will leave a heartache nothing can fully heal. But it's all the more true that love leaves the memory that nothing could ever steal. And so we gather, hearts heavy with sorrow. And yet we are asked to look beyond the tears to the truth that for John, all that discomforted him on earth has been released. Whatever questions he had have now been answered. And he now soars. You just got to wrap your heart and your mind around that. Forget the physicality of this life. His spirit soars through the realms of heaven, space, whatever image you need. I would ask you, do we cry for the caterpillar that seems to perish only to awaken as the butterfly? Do we grieve for the seed we plant in the ground, or do we know that in the springtime of rain and warmth, a fragrant blossom will burst forth? Do we cry for the setting sun, or do we know that in the morning's dawn it's going to rise more radiant than ever before? There is a love that assures me that following our years upon this earth, be they many or far too few, there does come a new journey. There does come the new life. And when John closed his eyes to the earth, it's only because he opened them in that next journey. So, how will you remember him? What thoughts will come to your mind, to your heart? Remember him as the beloved husband to Jean, with whom he shared so much of his heart and his life. Remember him as the loving father to Wes and John. And when you found love, he welcomed her into his heart and home as well. He knew the pride of being the grandfather to Marin and Macy and Maeve. He was brother to Jennifer and Janet. He was a dear and loyal friend to so many. Now, John was not a churchgoer, but dare anyone suggest his heart, his soul wasn't exactly what God would want ours to be. And what's more important, I would ask you? Where your tush might be 1 hour, 1 day a week, or where's your heart every moment? John's heart was always in the good place, in the kind place, the generous and considerate place. Remember him as the owner of his own wholesale flower business, when he put his pride, his integrity, his energy into. Remember him for his love of animals, and how much he enjoyed his toy cars, the Matchbox cars, and the baseball card collection. He enjoyed a great meal, both cooking one and eating one. And of course, the excellent drink as well. I love this flower thing here. He lived life. And when he returned to, again, whatever image works for you. But when his spirit journeyed into heaven, it wasn't partially used. It wasn't half used up. He did not live life like treading water. He returned a spirit to heaven fully used, fully enjoyed, fully embracing the life here on earth. But to remember John, you have to remember this part of him. How much he loved to help other people. Whenever he could, however he could, he loved helping others. No one will ever fully know how many people he touched over the years with his kindness and his help. But they know, and they will always remember his kindness when it was needed the most. White rose petals fall and blossoms fade and memories linger yet. Recollections of happier times you never will forget. And then as time gently passes by and comfort soothes your sorrow, like flowers you'll find new memories bloom to brighten your tomorrow. He was a precious treasure in a fragile vessel, as are all of you. And the day will come, I promise you, the day will come when you will gather in that paradise. And John will be there to greet you, drink in hand, flowers in the other, and he's going to say, welcome home. Welcome home. All is well. All is well. Now, this is the prattling of some preacher. Who better to speak of this man, than those who knew him best? Wes would speak first of his father.
I'm having trouble with my voice, forgive me. I just wanted to say something to my dad before he goes. Hi, Dad. It's been a couple tough years. I think I was mad at you because I knew you'd given up. Sorry. In my eyes, you had everything. I always looked up to you, Pop. I really wanted to tell you, it was very important to me to have your approval, your attention, and your love. I don't know if you knew that, but it was. I just want you to be proud of me, Pop. I love you. Goodbye. And thank you.
Now Scott would like to offer some words of his heart as well.
That's great. That's great. Here.
Thanks.
Thank you. Knowing John for as many years as I did, he didn't gravitate to all this attention. He would shy away from it. So I'm glad to see all his friends and everybody gathering in one room for him. But we gather here today to remember and celebrate the life of John. He was a good friend to so many. My path with John came across in 1980 working for a company called Hill Floral Products. I never worked in the floral business before in my life, but he and my brother-in-law Bob, they took me under their wing, and they showed me the ropes. They taught me how to, be with the customers and do all that stuff. And this is where I started to learn about John as a human being and what a great guy he was. Because He was a supply manager there, and he did not need to worry about what we were doing on the floor. His salary and everything else was based off of something totally different. And the short of the story is we used to have a weekly commission, and where I learned a lot about him is he would get on the phone and he would help us if we were short to make those commissions so everybody got a bonus at the end of the week, which I'll tell you, I think about that a lot. It speaks the volumes of a man. I could tell you over the years how many times one instance came where we get off on Carnegie there to go to the store, and there was a guy stopped there, and he had his trunk lit up, and he was saying, he'd come run over to the car, and he'd say, hey, listen, my wife's pregnant, I ran out of gas and everything else, and then I drove. Well, this is during a time when money was short, and I came to work, and I was telling John about it, and he goes, and he didn't say anything. And I said, you gave money, didn't you? He goes, yeah, I did. So that's the kind of kind soul that he was. But he later started Allied, and I'm sure this is the backstory, but with his best friend Bob Gailey, and they did it on a shoestring budget. And they did that during a time when all the big wholesalers were rolling in business, and they all pretty much said that this would fail. And through hard work and a lot of perseverance, he and Bob, I gotta refer to both of them because to me they're one and the same. That's just the way things are. We're always together. But they faced numerous financial struggles, which they always stood up to the challenge. John's dedication to the floral business led to the life of many lifelong friendships, which is evident here today. We worked it out, but it was always about the business. It was always about the business. And we had a lot of fun along the way as well. It wasn't just about the business. Nobody knows this, but we had a styrofoam baseball league in our back room at the old alley. I never got to play with the big leagues because I always got whatever utility guy we had working at the time. So I never won a game. But John had, believe it or not, a great curveball. You couldn't hit it. And it was a little 4-inch styrofoam ball. We would play that when we were slow for hours. We had lobster boils in Bay Village, and that was a crazy neighborhood back in those days. We go over there and the kids were little and stuff. We had Allied golf outings. I'm sure you're familiar with that. We went on a lot of golf trips. We would take 4 of us and we'd go on a spring golf trip. We had a lot of memorable times doing that. We hosted a lot of meetings for what we call the Ring County Florist Association, which was a big association back in the day, and we had a lot of fun. We had brought those people in, we fed them, and when we came in the next morning, there'd be piles of supplies set over with names on them. It was like a win-win-win thing for us during those times. We went on fishing charters with Captain Joe. We never caught a thing. Never caught a thing, but we had fun. And then we would go for a walleye dinner someplace else because we felt the lake owed it to us. We went to a lot of the St. Patrick's Day parades downtown, and who could forget Moriarty's? It was a central location. A lot of good things came out of there, and it pretty much was home. I would think that if there was a Norm down there, it would be that man. So. One of the golf trips that we took, which is kind of memorable, which was, every one of them had a memory, but one was to New Orleans. And John had a passion for Louisiana cooking. He loved it. He had cookbooks. He told me, I never knew who Paul Prudhomme was until I met him. But we went down there, and Paul Prudhomme was like the big chef back then, and he had a restaurant down there, and we set up reservations to go in there the one night. And we walk in, and I swear to God, John turned white, because Paul Prudhomme was meeting us, was greeting customers at the door, and he was like a little kid. We went in there, we told him how much of a big fan he was of him. Long story short, we got taken into the kitchen when we introduced every one of the staff. We were treated like royalty, and we walked out, and John walked out with a cast iron frying pan. The waitress came over to us and said, I don't know who you guys are, but nobody's ever been in a kitchen before. And the best part of it was, John looked at it and says, dinner's on me tonight. So that was a win-win there too. So we had, he had a passion for old movies. any kind of movie. He would come into work every day and he would tell you about all the wonderful movies, and he would quote lines from these movies. I had no idea what the heck he was talking about. But he loved to show that he was well read. And he would come in and he would read a National Geographic, and then knowing that I would not know an answer to that, he would ask me questions and then, tell me that I was, kind of dumb because I didn't understand what he was talking about. I would like to take this time to say thank you, John, for your friendship, all the laughs, and some advice along the way. You will be missed. Rest in peace, my dear friend. And I would like to say one thing. You can't say John without Jeannie, because they're together all the time, and I've known them for a very, very long time. But I would just like you, if you think about John, think about Jeannie, because they were one and the same. And I know right now he's in heaven, and he's holding court. He's got Bob sitting next to him. He's ordering Jerry Miller around. He's telling Terry Miller to go sit down and go get him something. And he's saying to Gene, come on, Gene, let's go. And my deepest condolences to you, the family. He's a great guy, and I will miss him. Thank you.
Now, John would like to speak.
Tough act to follow, Scott.
That was awesome.
I had followed Scott. I know he was you're like a brother to him. So just on behalf of our family, I want to express our heartfelt gratitude for your presence here today.
Give this to Johnny.
As we remember to celebrate the life of my dad, John Nolan Connelly. Your support and kindness during this difficult time means the world to us, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate your thoughts and prayers over the last few weeks. My dad was someone who touched the lives of everyone he met. I got it, thanks, man. He had a personality that seemed larger than life and generosity to match. It wasn't always the smoothest journey with my dad, as he did have his particular way of handling every situation, and oftentimes seemed to know more than most of us. But he always demonstrated the utmost compassion, empathy, and an unwavering willingness to help others. To me, he was a man who could do anything he set his mind to, and embodied an entrepreneurial spirit that inspired everyone around him. His generosity knew no bounds, as he was always there to lend a helping hand and offer his support. My memories of him are filled with such joy and laughter. He had such an amazing sense of humor. I fondly remember our vacations to Michigan and Orlando. We created countless memories together. The epic clam bakes on electric that Scott mentioned, where laughter and love filled the air. My father seemed to always be the center of it all. A bit later in life, I had the opportunity to experience Father's Day weekends in Miami with my dad. As usual, he was the life of the party and instantly connected with every other dad, student, ex-girlfriend, random bar patron, all to poke a little fun at his son, which was completely warranted. His ability to make anyone feel special and valued was truly a gift. He had a unique talent for making immediate connections with people, turning strangers into lifelong friends. His warm and welcoming nature made everyone feel like they belonged, and his kindness left an unforgettable mark on all who knew him. Even when he got sick, he never lost a spark or his sense of humor. It didn't seem fair the way my dad and Jean had to navigate the end of their lives. However, they handled it as gracefully as they could and relied on each other for strength and support. I'm so thankful for this, as it gave us a bit more time with them both. I know you and Jeannie are together now, and I know you will take care of one another forever. Lastly, I was able to speak with my dad over FaceTime the night before he passed. I was able to tell him I loved him. But what I really should have said was, Dad, I'm so glad you're my dad. So proud to be your son. Dad, you will be deeply missed, but your spirit will live on in each of us. Thank you for the countless ways you enriched our lives. We love you and we carry your memory with us always. Bye, Dad.
Before I conclude, the family hopes you can all join with them following this service at the Old River Tap and Social Restaurant on Detroit Road and Rocky River. See any of the family, they can make sure you find the way to get there. Obviously, the emotions are here. How could there not be with a man such as John? So I want to leave you with this. If nothing else I've said, I want you to remember this. You're thinking of all the ways that this man touched your lives, enriched your life. Never forget this. If he knew any joy, it's because you gave him that joy. If John was happy, it's because you made him happy. And most of all, if John knew any love at all, it's because you shared your love with him. Yes, you were lucky, blessed to have had him in your life. He was just as lucky to have had you in his life. What better way to finish this service than with the song Amazing Grace being piped? And now may God's sun be warm and kind to you. On the darkest of nights, some stars shine through. On the grayest of morns, a radiance brew. And when dusk comes, God grant God's hand to each and every one of you. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the most loving Spirit. Amen.
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 Thank you, Reverend Thomas. This does now conclude our services here at the funeral home this evening. Again, the family invites you to Old River Tap and Social for some food and fellowship. On behalf of the family, I thank you all for coming tonight.